Today I'll be showing you what my workstation for cross stitching looks like. It's my bundle of threads. They are organized on these strips, so it doesn't matter if you kind of wad it into a bundle, as long as it doesn't get knotted, you're all good. So I have this. Next we have the patterns. So it's usually these 2 pages. I ordered the Gold Collection Dimensions. I'm currently working on Twilight Bridge. This is actually my 3rd project from the Gold Collection. My previous ones that I already did was the Japanese Garden. Japanese Garden as well as the European Bistro. So you have needle, strings, pattern, and embroidery ring. With the Aida fabric cloth. And that's pretty much all the tools you need. Sometimes I work at home most of the time. Most of the time I would just work on my bed. And other times I just pack up all of these tools, put it in my purse, and I go to a coffee shop and I work on it there. But if you work in the comfort of your own home, I like to listen to stuff on my laptop over here. Sometimes I listen to music. Sometimes I just watch YouTube videos and sort of play it on the background. But usually this is my workstation. I usually spend about half an hour or 2 hours every morning working on this cross stitch. Time really flies when you work on these because usually one color takes me, I don't know, probably 15 minutes, usually 15 minutes. Maybe I'll actually time how long it takes to go through one color. So my process is like this. The first thing I do is I look for the color I want to cross stitch. And so the way that I've been doing it is I start from the center and I'm just going out, and I like to switch up the colors. I don't want to do one color and fill up the entire cross stitch with just that color. I like to jump around to different colors. And so I've started out from the middle and I'm slowly going out. So the very first stitch I made was probably in the center somewhere, and I'm slowly making bigger circles further out, so you can see. And so this gives me more freedom about which color I want to choose. And usually the colors are all kind of clumped together, and apparently some of the colors are further away, and it's just easier for me to count from the center if I just choose different colors at a time. So here, let's do this. So the next color I want to do is a blue musical note. So this one right here. So I want to do the blue musical notes. So I look at my legend. The blue musical note is the color beige and brown, and it needs 1 stitch of each. So I go to my colors, 1, 5, 3, 7, 6, and I pull out this thread, pull out 1 string. This, I usually pull it from the bottom, and then I kind of pull the rest of the strings towards the paper, and I just pull it. And I kind of wet the end of the thread with my mouth. And then the next color is 15936. This one. So this one here is a cross stitch, it's not a half stitch. So is the X's. So I put the ends together. So I read the comments that people posted on my last video. I mean my first video, I guess. And I started to not knot them anymore. It doesn't make a huge difference, but either way works. It doesn't make the final cross stitch any more or less bumpy, because in this particular pattern they call for sometimes 5 strings, 5 threads to go through the eye of the needle. And that is the reason why my needle that came with the kit broke. And so I used this other needle that I had, which was more sturdy. So it's nice to have a sturdy needle, not such a thin one, that comes with the kit. So what you do is you just thread it and leave about, I don't know, 6 inches past the needle. That's what I usually do. And then you make sure the ends are about even, about the same length. And now you are ready to start cross stitching. So you want to find where on your cross stitch the blue musical notes are. And so you can find that relative to the colors that are already on your cross stitch. Okay, so you just find where on your cross stitch matches this pattern, and you find where the musical notes are supposed to be. So let me actually time how long it takes for me to do this musical note color. So right now it is 9:52. So you just reach the ends, but you don't want it to pull all the way through, because if you pull all the way through, your string kind of just falls because you didn't make a knot. But this is how people do it, I guess. So you pull it, you don't pull it all the way through, and then you leave like a centimeter. Let's say leave a centimeter, and then you put it back in. So you're going from the bottom left to the top right of the square. And now I'm going to the bottom right of the square. Okay, so this is where you make the knot. So you kind of just pull it, and you make sure that you're holding the very ends of the strings. Okay, so look. So it looks like this in the back right now. So these are the ends of the strings right here. You want to hold this, and you want to make sure this part of the thread that is a loop right now, you want it to kind of wrap around the end of the thread right here. So you want to hold onto the end of the thread, but then at the same time you're pulling the string so that it kind of stabilizes the end of the string, so that the more you pull it, the more it's tightening onto the end of the string, like here. And so you make it so that when you pull on this, it's tight. Like you're not going to end up loosening the string and unraveling everything. Alright. So let's keep doing these musical note ones. So I'm going to cross stitch at the normal speed I usually cross stitch at. So at the same time, you don't want to pull only on your needle. Every time you pull a needle, you kind of want to grab both, like all of the strings, you know, including the string that is folded over. See, this is the loose end right here. So you want to also grab right here too when you pull on the string, so it doesn't come out of the needle. I've been working on this cross stitch since January, beginning of January, so it has been 1 month, and this is how far I've gotten. And this cross stitch is different from my previous cross stitches because the fabric itself, this is 18 count on Aida fabric. The other ones are 16 count on Aida fabric, which means this one is actually smaller in the size of the final products, but there are more squares per inch. 18 squares per inch instead of 16. So I oftentimes find myself glancing back and forth between my cross stitch and the pattern because I don't want to mess up. There's been lots of times where I mess up and then have to cut the thread and start all over. But I always try to make sure that I'm referencing the correct square. Cross stitching is kind of meditation for me. It's kind of, you're kind of thinking but not really thinking. You're just thinking about where the next stitch is, but as I'm doing this I'm kind of daydreaming, I guess. And it just wakes me up in the morning. Sometimes I make coffee and I just cross stitch until my coffee is finished. And every morning I usually go through 2 to 3 colors. And when I'm really motivated I go through like 5 colors. Colors is in like one certain pattern, like this is one, like the musical note, that's one. Until the thread is all inside this cross stitch. I don't know, this is the first time I'm actually timing how long it's taking me to do one symbol with one thread thing. I think it takes me about 15 minutes, but we'll see. Sometimes my hair gets stuck in it. So this is what I count inside my head. So when I look at this pattern, I'm like, so the next musical note in the square is 3 diagonal downwards to the right. So I count 1, 2, 3. And the musical note is to the right of that. So I go 1, 2, 3, and then to the right. From this point that I'm referencing. 1, 2, 3 to the right. And I check that it's next to two squares of the same color. And that's right, so I just keep going. Yeah, a lot of paying attention to detail in this craft. And we're running across a little knot. And we gotta untangle that knot before we go any further because it might make it look not as nice. There we go. The knot is off. Oh, and this happens. So the needle falls off from the thread. So you just gotta put it back in. A lot of patience and attention to detail. Which I like paying attention to detail, but I actually don't really have a lot of patience sometimes. Except in cross stitch. It teaches me a lot about patience. It also teaches me about focus. Because if you're working on this musical note, you have to be mindful that this is the color you're working for because this pattern is so overwhelming with so many symbols. And so you gotta always keep in mind that like right now we are focusing on the musical note. So I usually don't really mind what the back of my cross stitch looks like. A lot of people are really perfectionists and they want all of the lines on the back to be a certain way, usually like vertical lines. Or like just so neat, but I don't really mind because after I'm done with this cross stitch I'd like to hang it on the wall as just home decor, and so the back doesn't really matter. And here we are faced with a knot, a very difficult one to pick out. And so I guess the most time-consuming part of cross-stitching and the most annoying part is the knots. Sometimes you can't get rid of them. Okay, so in the rare occasions where you do get knots, sometimes the knot is small enough that you can still thread it through like this. You kind of have to tug on it, and you don't want to tug on it too hard. If there are knots that are too big and you have to tug on them too hard, then you just cut it off. But right now this one's fine. Just kind of put force on it a little bit. See, it's okay. Next one's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's annoying when this happens. But you just keep going. Like life. If you mess up a little bit, that is okay. You just keep going. And the knot becomes a part of your life. But that is okay. I am so philosophical. Okay, so eventually the knot is, you're going to reach the knot. And here you have two options. You can either cut the knot off, or you can just keep going and have the knot be a part of your cross stitch. Doesn't really matter. I think I'm gonna cut it off right now because I don't really like it. It's really annoying. So I usually cut off about 1.5 centimeters for now. And so this is the knot right here. I can't get rid of it. And so I'm just gonna cut it off. And I'm just going to throw it away. And then you just continue with the cross stitch. And you make sure the end of the thread that you cut off that is on the cross stitch right now, you want to kind of make sure that is not loose, and the next cross stitch that you make kind of tightens that to the cross stitch. So you want to treat both ends the same here. Yeah, so it's really easy to mess up, like me just now. Sometimes it's smooth sailing, and sometimes it is not. Get it? Sometimes the ends of the threads are too long, and so when you're pulling it up through the fabric, it kind of makes this weird, it kind of goes through, and then the end of the thread sticks up here. And so what you want to do is you find out the source of which hole that string is in, and then you kind of just pull it out of there again. And here what I like to do is just cut the ends of the strings here with my scissors, my little scissors. Just cut it. And yeah, I don't know if I forgot to mention scissors earlier, but scissors is another tool that you need for cross stitching. Okay, we have more musical notes that are farther away, so again, we're going to do this again. Where you go through the back, cut it, and then start at a new location. Alright, so when I'm done with the color, done with the musical note, I quickly scan to see if there are any more surrounding musical notes. Sometimes I'm not able to find them now, but I'll find them later somewhere else. Because it's really hard to navigate through this, but I think I'm done cross stitching the last musical note for now in this section. So let's see. Actually, I found out there are more. Okay, moving on to a different section. Section that my ring is not on, and so I just pop out the ring, move it to the right section that I want, and pop it back on. make sure fabric is tight on this ring. I found out from my last video that some people don't even use rings, but I find it essential. It's really nice to have a ring to pull it tight, and it's just easier to focus on everything. So this is the area I'm working on in the house. And I have quite a bit of string left. I have about, I don't know, 10 inches of string left. So here I find the pattern, focus on the musical notes that are still here. So yeah, there are still quite a few. But I am almost done. Okay, so it always happens when I don't tie a knot that the string kind of just goes through the entire fabric, but try again. Yeah, so as the thread is getting shorter, it just kind of just gets pulled away quite often if you're not careful. So when cross stitching, I usually use both hands. So my left hand, so I'm right-handed, so my left hand I usually use to kind of guide the needle. I'm using my middle finger and my middle fingernail to kind of guide the needle to the correct hole. And I'm also feeling the needle as it's poking down for, I don't know what reason, I just do it. And yeah, my left finger is always also working, holding the ring as well as feeling for the correct hole that the needle has to go through. My right hand is mostly just holding onto the needle and making sure the thread is still, making sure the thread is still on here, on my needle. Again, in case I'm getting loose. I don't really like the threads where I don't, like, you know, like this one is just one thread plus another thread, so it's actually two threads, but you don't really wrap it around when you first start. There's always like this loose end. I don't really like those, but we will get through it. I like the ones that are two threads where it's just one single thread that you kind of fold in half to be two. Like those are more, those kind of keep my needle in place more. Okay, taking longer than I expected. Alright, I think I'm almost at a good stopping point. So my stopping points are usually when I'm done with all of the symbols within the 10 by 10 square. And I have like, I don't know, 4 inches left of thread. That's when I like to stop. So I flip it over, go through the backing of some, doesn't really matter which ones, I just go through like, I don't know, 3, probably like 3 or 4 of the pre-existing threads in the back, and then just pull the needle off. And some people let the string just loose like this, or I don't know what reason, maybe just to remember which string is where, or if they need to use more of the string, they have it right here and it's like directly connected to that color, or they just loop it through the top and they kind of leave it there for it to be easier to see. But I just like to cut it off and throw it in the trash, because it seems like these kits, they give you more string than you need usually. I never really had to go back to the store and buy a certain color of string or have them send me more. Usually it's enough. So yeah, that's it. That's the session. And that took, wow, that took a long time. That took half an hour pretty much. Crazy. Thanks for watching.